Overnight, the Hollywood ending many feared, the Writers Guild calling a strike after negotiators were unable to reach a deal with the studios and streamers.
What do we want? Contracts. When do we want it?
Now. But, they got to get a fair deal. So, I'll do whatever I can to support them.
I also feel very strongly that what the writers are asking for is not unreasonable.
Okay, so two late-night hosts there throwing their support behind Hollywood's TV and film writers. It's only day 2 of the writers' strike, and if you were planning on tuning into any of these shows...
Welcome, one and all, to The Late Show. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't expect anything new. They're reruns. And daytime TV will be next. So you can expect a pause on the storylines of your favorite soaps.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
You don't know.
No, you can end this madness. You're gonna pay for that.
Other shows, serial dramas like Law & Order or Abbott Elementary, they might continue if scripts are finished, but actors and directors might also refuse to cross picket lines in solidarity with the writers. So what does this mean for shows and movies that you're interested in? And what's at stake for writers? We're going to break it down, but first, let's walk through how it all fell apart. Contract negotiations have been faltering for weeks. So if we look at it like this, on one side, you have the Writers Guild of America, and that's the union that represents film and TV writers. They were in talks to renegotiate a 3-year contract for more than 11,000 members. And the union got overwhelming support from those members to authorize a strike last month. On the other side is the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. It's the association that represents America's studios, streaming services, and production houses. And this week, negotiations between those two sides broke down.
In an email to its members announcing the strike, WGA said of the studios, they have closed the door on their labor force and opened the door to writing as an entirely freelance profession. No such deal could ever be contemplated by this membership.
It's worth noting that the Alliance of Media Companies, after the negotiations last night, said it offered generous increases in compensation for writers and, quote, they are fully committed to reaching a mutually beneficial deal.
So what does this mean for the Writers Guild of America? Well, they now have to follow really strict union rules. They can't write, they can't meet with, negotiate with, or work for a struck company. And that includes projects that they started before the strike. They also can't let their agents do business on their behalf. And if a union member breaks any of these rules, the guild can discipline them for putting the strike process in jeopardy. But this strike is far from the first. You might remember this one from 2007. It lasted 100 days and stretched into 2008. TV networks broadcasted reruns and added more reality shows to their lineups. They forced big shows like Breaking Bad and The Office to cut their seasons short. The whole thing cost Hollywood billions. But a lot is different this time around. Streaming has changed how programs are produced and distributed and how writers are paid even. Plus, there's the use of AI. It's creeped into creative spaces and infringed on writers. So to help us get through some of these issues, figure out what's going on, I'm gonna bring in Jenna Benchetrit. She is CBC's entertainment writer. I'm just gonna send her a little text. Hey.
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Thanks for hanging out with me, not making me hang out in this big theater alone.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I think the thing that, people are dying to know, that I'm dying to know, how are our shows really going to be affected? Like the last episode of Succession, will we be able to see it?
Yes, we will be able to watch Succession all together, yes. And Succession is a good example because it's ending in May. And a lot of shows are kind of at the tail end of their seasons now, which means that they've been written months in advance already, right? A lot of scripted comedy and drama series are written, like 2 months in advance. So that means they won't be impacted by this strike at this point. Depending on how long it lasts, right. we could see it run into the fall, but we're not there yet, so.
Okay, so those sort of like premiere TV is sort of safe for now. Mm-hmm. So what really are the writers, like wages is a big thing they're concerned about, right? And so much has changed in the business model of how TV is made. So can you kind of walk us through what they want?
Yeah, so the media landscape has just changed drastically over the last couple of years with the rise of streaming in particular. Seasons are a lot shorter. There's a longer time between seasons, so contracts are shorter.
So you're working for less time.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, you know, we see it now. Some TV shows last 8 to 10 episodes, whereas in the mid-2000s, you know, your favorite comedy series could be up to 22 episodes, right?
Right.
So there's that. There's also the fact that there's not as much residuals to be made in the streaming era. So, you know, it used to be like you could have reruns or syndication on network TV, and that would just put more money in the pockets of writers. But with streaming, that's not really.
They don't get any residuals from streaming?
They get some, they do, but it's just a smaller amount.
Okay. And I guess like the cost of living as well has grown so much. The wages, I guess, aren't keeping up, they're saying?
Yeah, I mean, for people who live in major industry centers like New York, like Los Angeles, those inflation pressures are really, they're really feeling them.
Actually, I want to show you a clip just on that.
We want enough money to make a basic living doing what we love, which is writing. Profits for the companies are up, the cost of living is up, and payment to writers is down.
Yeah, so this is what we've been hearing from people, right? They really aren't being compensated at a level that lines up with the cost of living. And one thing that I'll also mention is this rise of writers' mini rooms. These are pre-production writers groups, usually made up of like a showrunner and a couple writers, pretty small for a typical writer's room. And essentially what they do is they just pump out several scripts to bring to studio executives as a way of pitching a TV series.
Oh, so they used to write one episode, a pilot, film it and then decide, but now they're filming a few at a time?
It's more that they're bringing the scripts to studio executives to give them a sense of where the series will go and how much they should budget for it. So it's very different, as you say, from how things used to be, where you would have a pilot episode, it would go to air, and based on how well it did, the studio or the network would then order a whole season of that series. So now they actually want a bunch of those episodes up front, which is a lot of work in a small amount of time.
Right, that makes sense. And I mean, another one of these sticking points has been AI, which is really interesting, and it's really creeping in. So tell me, what are the writers asking for when it comes to that?
There are concerns there that it will take jobs away from writers. So I think it's important to mention that the Guild isn't asking for an outright ban on AI in script writing.
Interesting.
What they really want to focus on is authorship and ownership. They don't want their writers sharing credit with a script that has been, I guess, partially produced by artificial intelligence.
So they still want to be able to use it as a tool, kind of?
Maybe a writer feeds an idea into ChatGPT and then it spits out a script. That's the type of thing where the Guild would want that author, that writer, to be given sole credit of a work. Another example, maybe a studio executive gives a writer a script that has been written by AI and asks them to tweak it, make some changes. In that case, again, the Guild is asking for all of the credit to go to the human writer.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so a limited kind of use. I mean, and you can see why they're concerned, because I want to show you a beer commercial that was completely made by AI. Okay, so I mean, it's definitely not perfect, but you can see why people want like stipulations around this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, this is becoming more common in a lot of creative industries. Levi's, for example, has used AI models to showcase their clothes. It's becoming a lot more common.
Right. So instead of paying models, let's just use AI.
Exactly.
Okay, so how are we looking into the future here? How long could this go on for?
Well, so it's interesting. The last time the Writers Guild went on strike, this was 2007, 2008, it lasted for 100 days. And you really, really felt the impacts of that, especially because it happened mid-season. And I think in the 80s, there was another strike that lasted over 150 days. So it could be a while. It could be the whole summer. It kind of remains to be seen, but there is a precedent for these things lasting fairly long.
So fall shows, they might not be coming.
Yeah, they might be impacted. They might start a little bit later. Only time will tell.
Okay, well, we will be waiting for sure. Jenna Benchetrit, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.